President Keeler. Here. Mayor Kearns. Here. Director Dvorsky.
Here.
City Attorney Kuzan. Here. Director Miller. Here. All are present.
Thank you. Moving on, we have the approval of proceedings for August 1st and August 15th, 2022. Are there any amendments? Yes.
Just a minor name misspell. One of our residents, John, it says Lazar, it's Lazar, it's Lazar.
You have a page for that?
Yeah, it's the very first page.
Thank you.
Which minutes?
Of the August 1st minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, page
Thank
one
you.
of the August 1st minutes.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. Are there any other changes, amendments? Is there a motion?
Move to approve as amended.
Second. Motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Approved. Next, we have mayoral appointments. Mayor Kearns, civil service.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I submitted to you all the resume of Mary Mekigayam. I actually been married for probably 25 years. She's an attorney in the public sector, long time in the public sector of Ohio State. She's a former colleague for city attorney, and I'm submitting her for appointment to Civil Service Commission. John Kao, some of you know him. Neighbors with him is resigning because he's moving, so his last day will be in September.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Congratulations, Ms. Iano. Next, we have comments from visitors. First, we have Mr. Darrell Peck. If you could come to the podium, you have approximately 3 minutes, and you could just state your name, your address, and your comments.
All right. And Jen is going to hold a couple of my visual aids.
That's fine. I have things for both of you, so we have 6 minutes between the two.
All right. I'll still power through mine, so you got me. All right, so Darrell Kemp, 1580 Lincoln Road. So previously in July, I had spoken about the dog attack episode and asked for some general considerations, both to dissuade future attacks and to prompt local municipal action to adjudicate the aftermath of an attack with some additional nuance than what's current. So I'm back, so I didn't motivate anything, so I'm getting another run with some more specifics. So first off, I'm not going to call the actions of adults who intentionally allow their large breed dog to roam loose while unsupervised in an area that leads to forced interaction with other individuals. I'm not going to refer to that as an accident. It saw Jen and I returning home from a morning walk and immediately ran over to bite. The result of this is as follows. The dog bit through Jen's finger, ripping off her nail and breaking that finger at that location. An additional bite gave her a large puncture wound that required hospital care. Luckily, there was no subsequent infection, which is fairly common, but there is ongoing medical care 4 months later. Obviously, there are non-physical after effects that I won't discuss. Jen can tell you about hers, but mine are every time I leave the house, I'm at an 11 out of 10 in intensity, because it would be naive to think that I'm not going to have to fight off an adult large dog again, because it's still there. We're saddled with thousands and thousands of dollars of medical expenses because despite claiming the dog was insured to Franklin County, it wasn't, as verified by their insurance company. Hence, we must pursue a civil case which takes multiple years to adjudicate. To provide insult to injury, there's still no additional insurance needed for this dog post-attack. Finally, to properly appreciate the ongoing seriousness of the situation, Jen and I have parents with mobility issues and a 6- and 9-year-old niece and nephew who could have easily been the victims. And so now our family is hesitant to visit our home at all, and I honestly don't blame them because clearly you can't predict what other people are going to do. And having seen what can and will be done, given the opportunity, I understand. We would love to discuss the practical ramifications with the city prosecutor who oversees this, but he's ignored us up to this point and seemingly pursued a path of least resistance, as evidenced by completely ignoring any communication from Jen or myself, and the measures levied consists entirely of, and contrast this with what I just spoke about us, a one-time $150 fine, an extra $50 a year for dog registration, a sticker that you can't even read on the front door of the home, a chain leash when it's walks, no muzzle, no anything else, and if the dog is untethered in the yard, it must be behind a fence that locks. So basically all the fun stuff that they should have done already. Part 2, Grandview specifically needs a panel to scrutinize the events that was previous when there was a Board of Health that looked at this. Clearly Franklin County is not motivated to scrutinize these events at all. Nuance can and should decide if a dog should be relocated, if insurance should be required, and if the dog has a history of violence, then whether people within the proximity of this dog, the general public, should be notified just to be made aware so additional victims can be more aware of their surroundings. Clearly, none of these things are happening, and clearly, as I read the result of that attack, things are not working as they should. So this is a serious issue with serious consequences, and I don't understand why a community with, thank goodness, hardly any violent issues, this issue is not considered more urgent. Because fortunately, there aren't a lot of violent issues, but I would call someone getting attacked by a dog and sent to the hospital violence. My family and other Grandview families deserve to have our physical well-being taken seriously and not for them to be teachable moments for other individuals whose laziness and or indifference said about the motions of an event. If this is a governing body instead of a marketing department to recruit a higher tax base, I ask you to please do something about it. And by something, I don't mean mediation, which to me and to Jen is an unserious response to an event where someone's finger almost got bitten off. I know that Grandview contracts these and this sort of thing to Franklin County, but I don't understand what the hell is being paid for. It's free to ignore things. And I haven't heard one thing that would prohibit something to start either being set in motion and going on the books to protect people from stuff like this. There weren't any views. I'll share some pictures while Jen's talking, but just to kind of show you what I'm talking about. Like, this is where it opened up the top of her hand. That's just a close-up. Oh, this is the whole thing. You can see where the tip of her finger split in half. That's where it fractured it. This picture of lower quality, because we don't have the printer that FedEx does, is, it's still in there, to show the difference in a couple hours after the bite versus what her hand normally looks like. I'll show you guys first. And these are all the people that it could have been, instead of, I guess, what was the best scenario, Jen and I and our two 100-pound dogs fighting this thing off. It could have easily done much worse to a 6-year-old, a 9-year-old, or 2, 3 70-plus-year-olds who don't have the energy or strength to fight off a full-grown pit bull because their owner just let it go loose.
Just to keep us on time, I just want to drive home 2 points of our call to action. It seems clear that Grandview is not concerned about helping us. So all we can do is try to help others and minimize this in the future. We are not alone. Through community engagement, numerous Grandview residents have contacted us expressing similar stories. Their own dogs have been attacked, their children themselves. We are not alone in this, and as soon as we started outreaching, people were relieved to hear that there were others that they could share those stories. So we're asking for 2 things at a minimum. 1, a localized formal panel review process by Grandview for all dog attacks filed with the Franklin County Dog Warden to assess whether additional action or communication is warranted, along with a community alert system and requirement for additional liability insurance coverage when a dog is designated as dangerous or vicious, yet remains living within Grandview. And 2, stricter enforcement of leash laws in Grandview in hopes of preventing others from this traumatic experience. Again, should the Board of Health be active, that would be a great place to be that panel, but we've yet to find any activity. It seems to just be a facade in Grandview.
And again, we just haven't heard anything that would prohibit Grandview from taking steps to do something. If there is, I understand, like, you couldn't put a Grandview firearms law in because of prohibitive state laws. But I just haven't heard anything that says Grandview cannot touch this issue at all. So if it can't, please, we would like to know. We have a vested interest, obviously, and we can stop complaining. But if it can, what the hell are we doing?
Thank you. I will let our legal counsel answer those questions. I do have a question. The county, did they tell you they prosecuted to the fullest extent that they can, or?
We don't get an answer. And we even brought up, like, hey, on the report it says the dog's insured. It's clearly not. You can't even correct this to no response. Jen followed up, I don't know how many times. No, like I said,
Is there an active investigation that
no,
you're
it's
aware of?
done.
closed.
And we found that out
And they were-
from our civil suit lawyer because we couldn't get any information there either.
Okay, all right.
And as we're speaking, the dog are released to the park process.
Don't know if there's an appeals process, nothing, because no one will contact us.
All right, thank you. Director, if you could please address any information that you're aware of.
So the matter was, to the best of my knowledge, not appealed by the homeowner or the owner of the dog, who had the right within a certain number of days to appeal the finding of the county. And as you noted, this is a statutory mechanism. The state law applies. State law has very specific definitions on what is a dangerous dog, what is a vicious dog. There is no ability for a dog that's not defined as vicious to be put down, as you suggested in the emails, or to be seized out of their custody. The three things that they're required by statute to do, and I think I repeated all of these items to you in a couple of communications, is they have to keep the dog on leash, and unspoken associated with that, you or others have an obligation to notify the police if you see it off leash. If you see it off leash, the police officer will come. Oftentimes, and I know this is no great comfort, by the
It's
time
just
they
not
arrive,
violation.
the dog has already been taken inside or put away. At any other time, the dog is supposed to be kept confined in the yard or in a crate or whatnot. And then the third thing regarding the insurance, that was imposed on them by the citation of the county. If that hasn't happened, and I'm not sure how you determined that because I didn't have any information about that.
We have a claim denial letter from the insurance company. We have a claim denial letter from the insurance company. They do not cover pit bulls.
Okay. If, I don't know if you've had any, made any effort to contact the county Board of Health to see if there's a particular investigator that you can notify to say, these people still don't have insurance on the dog, you know, what does it take to get the dog reclassified as vicious? I don't know if it's a second attack that has, I mean, I don't want that to be the case. Please don't misconstrue what I've been saying to you. I would like to be able to do something, but at this point, there are very, very clear demarcations about what can happen. And at this point, there isn't anything else that our police department can do unless they're notified that the dog is off leash or not confined. And, you know, I didn't intend for you to take my suggestion about contacting the community mediation service as any sort of insult. I know it's very awkward to talk to neighbors that you've got a dispute with at this point. But short of them understanding the severity of the situation, and I don't know if they've ever offered to pay
Never
for your...
spoken to us. Nope, never spoken to us. So for me as the victim to request mediation is just putting more on me as the victim. And that continues to be the process. There's no accountability on them. It continues to be on me as the victim and my husband and our family. And they just live their normal life, but keep hearing what you just repeated to us. So the two of us and others, as I said in Grandview, are not satisfied that there's no action. Maybe there's not in the rules today, but can we at least prevent this in the future?
Well-
Because I'm not the only one.
And I will tell you, yours is, you know, maybe not anecdotally, but yours is the first dog bite incident that I've heard of, and I've been the city attorney for 17 years. I know that, you know, from time to time, like you said, there are dogs running around in the city parks and so forth, and we have tried to manage around that. We have added signage. When the police happen to be driving by, they will stop and talk to someone and ask them to leash their dog. I will talk to the detective who was aware of your case, because he followed up for me with the Board of Health, and see if he can maybe nudge somebody over there to pursue the insurance issue, because again, that's a statutory obligation, and they have the enforcement power on that. If you can send me the letter that you mentioned from your insurance company saying that they don't have insurance.
I think Daryl already provided that. It's on the dog warden report. It says proof of insurance. I'm sorry, I can send you the claim denial letter, yes.
Okay.
It's not from my insurance company, it's from theirs. Their homeowner's insurance should
okay.
cover dog bites.
No.
They do not cover pit bulls, so they either lied on their insurance or lied to the dog warden because
I
there's
see
no
what you're
coverage for
saying.
that
So-
breed of dog.
Okay, so you don't know whether they've subsequently gotten insurance after they were cited?
They've hired an attorney who's communicating with our attorney, so I would assume if there's insurance coverage, they would have pursued that already. So
Right.
a civil suit has been filed.
Okay, okay. I will follow up with the detective and see if we can nudge anything along with the county, but
I think we're missing the point too, that we're advocating for others in the community. And if you want to deal with these cases one-off, you know, that's one option, but we had clear asks of how to also help this in the future with better enforcement and also our suggestion of a panel to review this. And so we would look forward to hearing reaction to that going forward. It's bigger than just us. Like I said, we have multiple emails from others that have expressed similar concerns that they and their families have been bit by these dogs in the community.
and again, we can maybe talk about this separately. I don't want to turn this into any sort of a debate or take up time, but what would you hope such a panel could do, given that the limitation on designating the dog as vicious or dangerous is not ours to make? We don't have jurisdictionally the power
Sure,
to
to review that, our ask is to review that designation and determine what Grandview's response should be. So an example would be notifying the community via a flyer or some other notification that there's a dangerous dog that lives at this address. So people can keep their children, their relatives, their dogs themselves safe. There are multiple angles that Grandview could impose. We haven't heard, as Daryl said, any restrictions as to why Grandview couldn't. On top of that, say, here is as a community how we're going to respond to that designation. Maybe we can't change it, but we can make sure we do our part to keep our community safe while leveraging city or county services.
And do you have the ability to notify your neighbors or people in the immediate area to the extent?
We have through word of mouth, through emails, through a Facebook group. We have done our part to notify others without referring to the specific address or names of the individual, but we've done our part to try to notify the community. And that's where we received a lot of words of gratitude and sharing of similar stories.
So can I ask, the dog was designated
As dangerous, and we were not a
Right.
part of that process to come to that designation. So again, as the victim, I was
To
not.
clarify, you want the neighbors to know the dog was,
That this attack happened and the dog is designated as a dangerous dog so that they can keep themselves safe and choose their own walking paths accordingly as well. Because if that dog, who has a bite history of a human, is still going to live in Grandview, the community should be aware that that's happened.
do we do that kind of warning for anything else?
Sex
Only for
offenders.
sex offenders, and that's a statutory Ohio revised code requirement. And that's actually issued by the county sheriffs.
Could we put, I'm sorry, I don't know if I'm on top.
Yes, Councilmember Kozak.
Could we put something on the website, like that sort of thing? I don't know for the sex offenders, if you've ever talked about linking to that, or if we could have something out there about dangerous dogs, here are addresses.
Yeah.
I don't think we have anything.
We don't, and the county sheriff sends an email to, or a communication, a written communication to anybody within the vicinity, which I think is 1,000 feet, and notifies people directly. We do not send those notifications.
Should I have gotten that notification then?
For sex offenders, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Not, sorry, I conflated the two things.
But yeah, like,
I take your point. We
So,
can-
so the thing for dogs is, sorry, what was the dog designation again?
Dangerous.
Dangerous, and the next thing was vicious.
Vicious.
And I
Is there
think
any
it's-
kind of notification for vicious?
I don't believe there is. Because the county sees the dog and euthanizes it.
But the designation between the two has not been clearly explained to us as to what, you know, it says in the statutes it's the degree of attack, but that's very judgmental, and we were not involved in that process.
see how that would be frustrating.
So there is a process established for determining whether a dog is quote unquote a nuisance dog, a dangerous dog, or a vicious dog. But that process is really driven by the county, and then it's on the homeowner, the owner of the dog to challenge the presumptive designation. Yeah, it says the owner, keeper, or harborer of the dog, or the person who is designated, whose dog is designated, may appeal the court's final determination in any other case filed in the court.
But there's
Is this
no-
something that we are
there's-
able to legislate? Is it within our power?
I don't believe that we do because it's a statutory requirement, but I will follow up with the detective and with the county board of health.
Or to see if they could be layered on top for an additional, even like awareness if it's not a law. I know I would love to know which addresses, look on a simple map, which addresses have dogs with a bite history there. And I can say, I do not walk the dogs, I do not walk alone, and I would probably do that if I could see where all those instances happen, because I'm not going through this again. So I think there are options, and that's all we're asking for, is to continue the dialogue and hopefully help prevent this from others in the future.
Sure.
Well, I'm glad you filed the civil suit because we've had conversations about this and all of us who are lawyers concluded that that's your recourse. That's the only
Yeah.
alternative.
Unfortunately, they lied again on the insurance coverage, and so we're still out of pocket thousands of dollars, as Daryl said, and years before we can recover that. And others in the community may not be able to pay that out of pocket. And so we're again trying to think bigger than just ourselves, and I hope the city council can appreciate that.
Absolutely. If it's not something that we can legislate here, is it something that folks could advocate for with their state legislators? Is that something?
I'll note that I had a conversation with State Representative Kristen Boggs about this a little bit, just to raise it to her. So, though will be changing over to State Representative Allison Russo in the new year. That's a good idea.
Thank you so much
Thank
for all
you.
your time.
Thank you, John.
The only other public comments we have is from Tracy Coe regarding improving bike safety. This was online. She is not present, so we'll enter those into the minutes. All right, moving on, department head reports. Fire.
Only one.
We can't wait to hear about it.
Good evening. Summer's just flown by. Looking back at all the stuff that's happened over the summer, I think the busiest part of our summer, our 911 emergency calls pretty much stayed the same, the slight increase that we've been facing over the last couple of years, but the amount of public education that we've been able to interact with over the last couple of months, and I put it in my department report, we've been really, really busy. This is where you learn to appreciate our staff, because they don't just go and show up. When we take pictures and we see things on the website of just them truly interacting with the kids, with the community, it's really something special. And we've had a number of things, and everybody knows you call, we don't say no. So we've done everything from National Night Out. Very proud of our baby safety certification course. We've done that a second time. Both times it was full. We've done it at the library. We've done it with our Parks and Rec department. We started our football games. We've done birthday visits, block parties, the Grandview Hops, which we're working in October. I think we're going to partner with Parks and Rec and do like a Halloween type of craft at the Halloween Hop, which is really kind of cool. I'm working with Jill on that. You've noticed we've had our antique at the last couple of hops, just kind of in the back. And Josh Harris, our fire medic that's in charge of that, has had a phenomenal response of people asking questions and interacting and wanting to know about it. And it's just been something cool. So I really like mixing up those opportunities, for example, at the hop. We had a very successful Try the Heights. It was very well laid out, very well planned, very well executed, but it went off without a hitch. We finished up our investigation at the fire, the Eddington on First Avenue. We've been, from the first company on the scene, we've been right in the investigation. Our fire marshal, it's really kind of cool when he focused on his initial investigation at the beginning. Everything he found initially has been upheld as it's gone up the chain through engineers and other investigators paid for by the insurance company. So we're wrapping that up. We partnered with the library. We're going to have a display in the youth library. And we decided to do kind of a historical perspective. So we've donated some of our historical pieces on display in the library. I believe it's going to be on display till end of October. So if you're in the library, head down to the youth library and check that out. Other than that, our stats are here. They're continuing to grow. We've had a very busy couple of months with fires. And I'm here to answer any questions that you might have.
Great. I would just say we have a public art fund, if there's still funds for your craft.
Oh,
Make
yeah.
use of that.
Keep that in mind.
Yeah, and Henrietta Food Collins has done a lot for public art, so it might be an opportunity.
Very cool. We'll look into that.
Yeah. So if you remember, she did the little pom-poms on the antique truck for the parade a few years ago. You all do wonderful work. Are there any questions, comments for the chief? Yeah.
Thanks for your help on Saturday. Thank you.
Oh, it went well, didn't
It
it?
was fun to see.
What's it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's the coolest
Yeah.
event, but
The
nope.
triathlon, the Grandview Hop, all these things, you guys do such a wonderful job, and we're so thankful to have
We have good partners,
you.
but we thank you for all your support too. We're here for you if you need anything.
All right,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you.
So the police department, the chief is not feeling well, and so he is excused this evening, and we hope to hear from him another time soon. Moving on, council committee reports, finance,
No report.
planning administration. No report. Very exciting, recreation services and public facilities.
Our committee met this evening at 6:45, and I will speak to that as it appears on the agenda.
Public safety. No report. Economic development.
No report.
Aggregation and exploration.
Is that-
Director Corson. Thank you. Liaison, Grandview Library.
There's a new pamphlet out that I left at everyone's desk. On page 6, there's some non-traditional lending items. They have acoustic guitars, dragger training phones, and telescopes that you can check out of the library, plus a long list of other things. And then on page 12, there is another Lights with Friends, and it's going to be at Barrel and Taps on Wednesday, September 21st. And then the chocolate walk is back, that's on page 14, with information on that about, it's Thursday, October 6th from 6 to 8. And they have, starting tonight, music in the atrium every month, once a month. So tonight's the first one for that, for the next 3 months. And then on page 21, they're having a local heroes and touch a truck day with police, fire, and EMTs, where they will have people from each department and then the trucks and cars over there for kids to stop by at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, September 28th.
Thank you. I had no idea. Like, I knew about the guitars, but flashy games and bull horns and metal detectors, that's really cool. Anyways, sorry. Distracted. Chamber,
No report.
thank you. Planning commission.
Planning Commission met, there was one just incredibly exciting application for a sign at the rail that was approved. It was really fun.
It's an upside down cover. Please don't do
It's not gravity.
As a vegetarian, that's my favorite, I must say.
It was,
Alright.
it was, we had to stay within our confined decision-making.
Alright.
Wasn't up that.
Wonderful, thank you, Coda.
Code advisory panel met last Tuesday, the 30th. Not a whole lot relevant to Grandview that meeting. They're replacing more and more of their buses with electric vehicle, electric capability. That's a big part of their funding right now. There is still a problem with bus driver shortage, trying to recruit more and more bus drivers, get people with CDL licenses. And now, for a while at least, there will be just one in the morning, one in the evening run at the 75. The time change from the first run, when there were two, the time change will be approximately 15 minutes later.
Thank you. So the BRT is not going on the ballot this
No.
November.
Due
Is there any
to,
talk of any kind of future ballot initiative, or is there any discussion on this?
nothing right now. I think they probably will revisit it next year. It was primarily due to the inflationary issue. But this year they decided to not pursue it.
Very good, thank you. Mark C, not much going on, there's lots going on, but nothing new to report, that has been reported before. Destination Grandview,
Couple quick updates. It's anticipated that the 2023 hotel rates will be 14 to 16% higher than 2019. They're not quite back to parity from that yet, but we're getting there. Grandview's got the top 4 spots on the destination or Experience Columbus Distillery Trail. That's been pretty successful. And then I thought this was kind of cool. So Destination Grandview's applied for the Ohio Travel Association. They have awards for travel and tourism bureaus and organizations. So they applied for this award related to Holiday Inn Heights and supporting the Grandview community and doing that. So it's a Spirit of Community category where they've helped us, and I thought that was a really great event. So good luck to them.
kind of related, I recently got my CTA certification, which is a Certified Tourism Ambassador, that is through Experience Columbus. I would highly encourage all of you to get it. It's the most fun class I've ever taken in my life. It's like, what kind of fun things can you do? And then you could get to put CTA after your name.
That was the fun.
But it's all about promoting Central Ohio and all fun things here, so I would highly encourage you all to take that class. All right, Sustainable 2050.
All right, the next meeting is coming up on Friday, September 16th, so the Friday after next. And we've been invited to present on our sustainability efforts at MORPC's Summit on Sustainability, their annual event. That is, I believe, October 14th. And I'll be joining a couple others on a panel. I want to thank the administration. We were able to sit down and start mapping out some talking points for that. And once I get those fully together, I will share with you all to help me out a little bit more. So thank you, Aubrey. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Mayor, for assistance with that.
Thank you. Mayor's report.
Thank you. Street sweeping starts Monday. Look on 311 and social media for the exact schedule. Columbia Gas Project will be continuing to its next phase in the Highland and Oxley area. Finally, the administration and the chiefs and planning and finance have been very busy putting information together to be presented in conjunction with tours to the community on issue 32 next Monday. So there's, as you probably know, I think I've announced this before, but maybe not, we have 2 tour/information sessions set up. One is next Monday, the 12th. The next one is August 11th, and that's a Tuesday, so.
August 11th was last month.
I'm sorry, October, I don't know why I said August. October 11th, Tuesday. 6:30 tour, 7:30 information session. The information session, you don't have to go to both, but obviously, why not? The information sessions will be up the hill in the fire apparatus base. And we have also put together several videos that are in production now for virtual tour content so that people can have multiple ways of experiencing and understanding the information that needs to be presented. So thanks to those of you who've been on your own tour recently to kind of refresh memory on the issues, deficiencies, needs of the building and the operations of the safety services. And for those of you who haven't gotten to that yet, still will go do that. So hopefully we'll see you all Monday.
Thank you. Any questions for the mayor? Okay, Director of Operations.
I wanted to elaborate a little bit on the fire department stats. The gold standard for response time that is reported is 90 seconds. Ours is 66 seconds. That's 25% better than the gold standard. That's huge. That's not just a smidge under the gold standard. That's incredible. So we're very happy. We've always been happy about it. I remember when I first took this job that was one of the stats that was pointed out to the city I was coming to, is that we were one of 2 communities in Central Ohio that hit that gold standard. And I think we just exceeded it more and more each year during that time. So kudos to them. I also want to thank the medics for squeegeeing the roof of the city hall today above my office, because I have 5 rusty lines of water that came in during the storm. One that I will not be able to use my printer for 3 days as it's drying out. The other one just barely used my phone out of it. So thanks to them for taking care of that for me. And then on the service department area, the whole group here has been working on the OPWC grant and loan initiative that was due a few days ago. A ton of work was done on that, as well as really high quality, highly detailed work by the engineering firm that we hired. So our thanks to them as well. And then down at Southern Station, a big dirt pile, 70,000 cubic yards of dirt. 50,000 cubic yards of dirt. 7,000 have been moved so far. Basically, the top of that hill has gotten a crew cut. Basically, just a little off the top at this point. Our challenge has been getting trucks to move the dirt. So everybody's on it, they just can't get the trucks. So they still anticipate that will be done by September, like they said, but probably not until the very end of September due to the lack of trucks. I think the city looks good. They've been doing curb painting. They've really focused on in August getting the school ready, the crosswalks and so forth. So I hope you agree, but I think the city looks pretty good. That's all I have.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you, Bob. Any questions for the director? No? All right, thank you. We look forward to a complete curb cut, or buzz, I guess it would be. Next, Director of Finance, Director Miller.
We received our second half property tax and pilots in August, and we distributed the pilots to the school district, library, and infrastructure debt trustee. So those were significant payments this month. We also had our property and liability insurance renewal, which was pretty good, so we're happy about that. Income tax revenue is down from last year, but not quite as bad as we were anticipating, as I've kind of said over and over. But we have started to see income tax refunds come in higher. The last 2 months, August and September, have been over $100,000 each, which is quite a bit. A typical year for us has ranged from $250,000 to $445,000, and as of right now, we're above $400,000. So we will be asking for supplemental appropriations. A lot of that increase does relate to work from home. So it's for people who were working from home in 2021, but their employers continue to withhold to the city, which was allowable, but now they're requesting refunds. So we're not the only ones seeing this increase. It's not totally unexpected, but we will have to ask for more money for that. So we can discuss that with the supplemental appropriations a little more. But other than that, things are looking good.
Right. Any questions for the director? Thank you. Director Coker?
Yes, thank you. Hit on just a few highlights. We have started some early procurement for the Fairview Avenue project. Got initial bids in on some things and have a couple more on the way. So we're starting to get some things ordered ahead of the complete bid because of long lead times for certain kinds of construction items as well as inflation. The overall project will bid in the next 3 to 4 weeks and start construction in January. And the school, I just heard, is on time, so they are moving as far as they know today. So their project's going to dovetail with ours the way we had planned. Keep your fingers crossed for everyone. The new fire building and the parks building I'll talk about a little bit in tandem, which is, I think, the most important thing to understand about those two projects at this point in terms of activities unrelated to the bond issue per se, is that once, on any capital project, once you make a decision about what you want to do, the faster you can do it, the better off you are. Always. The inflation that we're seeing right now is just really putting a fine point on that, because every month costs money, essentially, that you're moving the project out. It's costing substantial amounts of money. So we're working on onboarding all of our consultants right now, so that if the bond issue is approved, we will be ready to hit the ground running and not have to have another 2 or 3 month or longer kind of ramp up process after that. So we're working on those things. I had an interesting meeting with City of Columbus about, could bore you to death, it was interesting for me, sewer, sanitary, and storm sewers and capacity, just trying to kind of understand what can be done going forward in terms of development, and how overall the City of Columbus is looking because of Intel and all the stuff that's coming. So it was actually very interesting for me. We're continuing with the economic development strategic planning, working on strategies and tactics at the moment. It's going a little bit slower because of all the different things going on, but we are still pushing that forward. Little detail on the Jet Z. I'm not sure if you caught in my report, but I am having quarterly lunches with Matt Huffman now just to make sure we're communicating well. And he mentioned to me that they have passed a TIF district, essentially aligning with the Jet Z district, so that they'll be able to start accruing funds to do improvements to their public sphere, just like we do. So that was exciting and great news. And then just one other, I think, little tidbit on the ESID, interesting information from the meeting this month. The Upper Arlington Community Center is availing themselves of the PACE PACE financing to help finance their project. So that was just interesting to hear. We got a kind of rundown on all of the projects that have been funded this year and the percent of savings in terms of sustainability considerations on those. And it's significant, so it's great that funding's in place. However, residential PACE is not active in Ohio. I wanted to clarify that after a meeting we had with Councilman Houston. The issue is that there are not lenders who are interested or able to practice in Ohio right now to lend through residential PACE. So while there's a program, there's no lenders. So it's not really happening, but commercial PACE is doing well, so got a good start on that. And happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions?
One follow-up question, you can see it on my face. Just curious about the no lenders. Is it likely due to the scale of the projects being smaller? It's just not an appetite.
Commercial projects often have a variety of funding sources, and they're very, I think, attractive to lenders.
Okay.
And so this is another way that lenders can be competitive to gain some of that business. Residential lenders don't seem to have the same market pressure on themselves in terms of borrowers coming to them, so it hasn't been as attractive to them.
Thank you. Were there other lenders from the time that has passed? Were there other lenders out there doing that? I remember when you guys passed that legislation some years ago. Did
Yeah,
people
I
do
think that long ago, it was like 2 years ago.
It was like, it was September exactly 2
Yeah.
years ago.
No.
At the time, I think there were a couple of lenders, I don't know. There was also some kerfuffle with an administrative group that was administering the program itself that backed out. So I don't know whether those lenders that were in at the time ever ended up lending. But I think it's something that statewide,
If you
or?
wanted. And randomly, but John Oliver did a piece on this about how there were some, like, predatory lenders coming out and getting people to sign up, and they didn't understand what they were signing up for, and so they were saying, well, you can do this and this and this, and then expanding the amount of the loan, and they didn't realize it was essentially like tied to their home and a lien against their home if they wanted to get out of it. So I don't know if that has anything to do with
John
it.
Oliver, like me?
Yes.
There's been a lot of misinformation put out about
Okay.
this.
He does
But there has been
reports,
news
he does
reporting.
reports on different topics
Okay.
that are
All
very
right.
important. It's interesting.
Yeah, I do know there were some articles that were not favorable to the financing and what that might look like. But I do think it is something that could be beneficial if it ever comes back to work. So, but we do not do loans, so we don't have direct control of that, so. All right, anything else to add? Any other questions for our director? No. Okay, city attorney.
I've submitted my report and would be happy to answer questions.
Are there any questions for the, please? No, moving on, old business item number 1.
Ordinance 2022-16, an ordinance to approve supplemental appropriations for initial design required to move Grandview Center to McKinley Field during fiscal year ending December 31st, 2022.
Thank you. Councilmember Panzera, your committee met.
Thank you. We did. We had our second committee meeting regarding this legislative item this evening, and the committee brings a unanimous recommendation for approval.
Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Edwards,
Yes.
Patsapatinos,
Yes.
Houston,
Yes.
Kozak,
Yes.
Panzera,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
President Keeler.
Yes.
Ordinance 2022-16 has been approved.
Thank you. New business item number 1.
Resolution 24-2022, a resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Franklin County Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith, Finance Chair. Would you like to chime in on this, or Director Miller?
I can.
Go ahead.
This is an annual requirement, so step one of this process is the tax budget, which was approved in June. So that's where we said we need property taxes. We sent that into the county. The Budget Commission met last week, and they say, okay, this is what your levies will produce. These are the rates, and we just have to accept that. So then they will then levy those taxes for us to collect next year. So it's kind of it's something that we do every year. If you look at Schedule A, that kind of shows what we're getting. It shows the different components and the different levies that are out there.
Thank you. So this is reiterating something we do every year,
Yep.
kind of housekeeping, nothing new.
So effective.
If we want to collect taxes next year, then yes, we get to do this.
Is there a timeline for passage requirement?
October 1st.
Thank you. Seeing as this is a housekeeping matter, is there any discussion? It's a resolution, is there a motion?
I would move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Motion and second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Patsapatinos?
Yes.
Houston,
Yes.
Kozak,
Yes.
Panzera,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
President Keeler.
Yep.
Resolution 24-2022 has been approved.
Thank you. New business item number 2.
Ordinance 2022-17, an ordinance to amend chapters 303 and 351 of the codified ordinances of the city of Grandview Heights and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Mayor Kearns. Would you like to speak on it?
Thank you. Grandview loves its street parties and events. Those do require additional safety enhancements and measures, and no parking signs for safety reasons. And there are occasions that arise where we do have to, we don't like to, but we do have to move people's cars. So this really is to clarify and that if there's a temporary sign, we actually mean it, and it can lead to us towing your car and towing it. Again, obviously, we do this for safety reasons. It's in response to some situations that have occurred, and self-explanatory if you read the language.
Thank you. Is there any requirement for when you need to have? No. All right, I will assign that to planning and administration. And record that as a first reading. Moving on to new business item number 3.
Ordinance 2022-18, an ordinance to approve supplemental appropriations for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2022.
You, Councilmember Smith, and for Director Miller. You're up.
Director Miller can elaborate more on this, but I think the two primary expenses that are covered in the supplemental are the increases in the tax refunds, as well as additions, increases in fuel costs. Go ahead, Director.
Yeah, those are the two main things. A couple of other items are where we're making adjustments where we pass through money for the Gen Z. That's what the CETA fund amount relates to. The Grandview Yard TIF fund, we never know quite what that's going to be until we get the money from the county, so there's an adjustment to that. I assume we'll probably be having a finance committee meeting about this, and we'll go through every line item. And I'll also provide you with a spreadsheet that shows each line item, because this rolls it up into the budgetary requirements for council to approve, but I have it by line item, and I'll send that out to everybody.
Perfect. That's a perfect lead-in for, I will assign that to finance for this as a first reading. So have fun. Moving on, new business item number 4.
Ordinance 2022-19, an ordinance to ratify the selection process and authorize the mayor and director of finance to enter into a contract for architectural and engineering services and related supportive services for the proposed new Grandview Center at McKinley Field Park and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Mayor Kearns, if you could speak to this in executive session.
Well, this is part of the, what I'll call the time is money legislative package. You have the $50,000 appropriation. We've got this, I believe there's another piece coming at mid-month to this, essentially to advance, as the director said, the project, both projects, this, moving this building and the project on top of the hill, the underlying safety project, as soon as possible, provided that the voters approve it in November. I guess I could explain a little more. I can ask the city attorney to explain, but essentially it's to advance the contracting process with a selected firm, as we have, I think, already done or in the process of doing for the public safety facility.
Yeah, the contracts or agreements are being prepared or finalized, I should say, and should be, we'll get them distributed to you well in advance of the next meeting, so that you've got opportunity to do that. But in talking with the director, she mentioned that there is a significant cost to every month of delay, so we wanted to get this ball rolling as quickly as possible so that you could hopefully pass it in the second reading.
And just to reiterate, we are passing not necessarily the contract itself, but the ability to
To
bypass.
select the contract, or the design firm for pre-design services.
All right, as opposed to going through the whole bid process.
Correct.
Because we're allowed to do this as a chartered city.
There are different ways to address procurement of services, and this is one of them.
Okay, and so this would, we wouldn't actually go through this until if the bond issue is passed, correct?
Well, some of the pre-design services, you want to be able to start as soon as the passage.
Correct. In analyzing, and there's some information in the memo, but in analyzing the cost to the city of delaying versus the cost to the city of going forward with certain services that if the bond issue were not to pass, we may not continue with, it's a bigger risk to wait. It's a bigger monetary risk to wait. So it makes sense to do it and get as much ahead of it as we can. The services that will be provided are preparatory services. We need to get a survey done of the land over here. We need to get moorings ordered. We need to get the consultants in to meet staff and develop a schedule of meetings. We need to develop a tempo for the public meetings and figure out dates for those. We need to give them some time to prepare for them, and we want to do those as quickly as we can. So it's not really, we're not getting ahead of the process, I would say. We're just getting prepared for the process to be able to move forward in November if the public supports the levy.
So we're doing our homework so we can push the button, and it would still be useful even if you couldn't push the button now, we could possibly push it in the future. This is all things that would still be relevant, correct?
Oh, yes. Always all the collateral the city will own, surveys and all these other pieces will be, yeah.
These are the types, if I may, sorry,
Yes.
these are the types of things we did on this site early on before we did the planning, that these were, so some of what you described, the sort of timeframes. Yeah, geotechnical.
Are there any questions?
I think we have another COSAC question. Thanks for answering the questions in the email today. So I'm just not familiar with the process of the bidding. And it sounded like, and also I didn't get completely through the memo you sent, sorry for caught up before coming here, but, so you're saying that we don't have to go through a bidding process because this is, it says selecting an architect or an engineer, but then we do have to use a bidding process for other types of work?
For construction work, bidding is required
Okay.
over some nominal value.
That's the bidding.
So for professional services, they are not required. And for AEs, under the state statute, it's prohibited. You're not allowed to bid. The idea with that is that you want to be selecting on the basis of the most qualified company, not whoever can give you the lowest dollar value.
And the AE is the architect or engineer?
Yes, sorry, yes. Correct. The city also specifically carves out professional services as something that does not have to be bid as well for the same reason.
The Ohio Revised Code has that same.
The same language.
Yeah, it's generally, across the board with public entities.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Are there any other questions, comments, thoughts? Olivia? No? Nothing? Okay. All right, we will record that as a first reading and assign it to, I call it Recreation Services and Public Facilities. Moving on, other business. No other business unless anyone says otherwise. No? Okay. Comments from council members, anyone? Yes, council member, please.
There is one event I just wanted to mention, so, because it will be at the Grandview Library. It's a meeting about the Columbus Area Solar Co-op, and it is September 29th at 6 p.m.
Great.
That is all.
In like the main congregation?
It says conference room B.
Okay, so the main one downstairs. Awesome. Any other comments? Yes, Councilmember Panzer, I saw.
A hint of a question.
Yes.
If anyone in the room would like to join me following the meeting at my beautiful vehicle in the parking lot, I might have some swag to hand out to anyone who wants something. Swag, yes. Flair, not anything nefarious.
I mean, you all better have all the flair, at least 20 pieces, or
Yes.
else you're gonna have to go like
I have the flair with
tear
me.
down the fax machine on the lawn. Anyone else know that movie?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have the
would-
cover sheets on the TBS reports?
I need to talk to you about that.
I'm gonna have to say, where's my stapler?
Sure.
Anyways, we digress. First of all, I would really like to extend our thanks to Police Fire Services for their wonderful work that they've done with Granby Hop, with the Try the Heights on Saturday, with just stopping by my house today and giving me recommendations for my honeymoon. Like, they're just wonderful.
New service.
Right? Travel service now. So please, Mayor Kearns and Director Dvorsky, extend our huge thanks to all the folks who have done that, as well as all the volunteers who helped out with all the events. They were wonderful. Everyone had a great time, and it was great. As well as upcoming this weekend, we have the Ox Roast. Go volunteer, wear your shirt, bring home a goldfish. Like, this is what you do. It'll be lovely, as it always is. And yeah, please just support our local community members, local businesses, and all that. That would be wonderful.
Jolly Steppers kick it off. They're looking for dancers.
Yeah,
She's looking at you, Anthony.
No, I'm on trash.
they let me dance with them at the National Night Out. It was bad. I think I may be kicked out from that. Anyways, are there any other comments? Thoughts? No? Everyone have a wonderful next 2 weeks, and we will see you in March. Thank you.
20? No?
19.
More than-
Whatever